Trauma isn't just what happened to you, it's what your brain keeps reliving because it's trying to protect you. When we think of trauma, we often imagine it as an event in the past, something that's over, something that happened and is now behind us. But the truth is, trauma doesn't live in the past. It lives in the present moment, inside your nervous system, inside the patterns of your thoughts, the tone of your inner voice, the tension in your muscles, the way your breath shortens when you feel something familiar yet painful. Trauma is not the memory itself, it's the body's reaction to that memory. It's the brain doing its job so intensely that it doesn't realize it's no longer needed. It's the ultimate paradox of human survival. The brain that once saved you now becomes the very thing that keeps you from feeling free. When something overwhelming happens, an event that floods your body with more emotion, fear, or helplessness than it can handle, your brain switches into survival mode. It releases a storm of stress hormones and locks away that moment deep in the subconscious. Your nervous system says, this was too much, we can't go through this again. And from that moment on, your brain's number one mission is to prevent you from ever feeling that helpless again. It scans the environment constantly, searching for even the faintest echoes of that danger. The tone of someone's voice, a smell, a song, a look, anything that even remotely resembles the old pain can set off alarms. Not because you're weak, not because you're broken, but because your brain thinks it's saving your life. You see, the human brain doesn't operate in the language of time. It doesn't understand that the event happened 5, 10, or 20 years ago. When you get triggered, it's not that you remember what happened, it's that your brain relives it. The same circuits light up, the same chemicals flood your body, the same fight, flight, or freeze response takes control. The brain thinks it's happening again. And because it can't tell the difference between memory and reality, your body prepares to survive a threat that no longer exists. That's why trauma doesn't just stay in your head, it shows up in your body, your sleep, your habits, your relationships, even your sense of identity. You begin to live on high alert, never fully relaxed, never fully present, always subconsciously preparing for something bad that may or may not come. The irony is that your brain is not your enemy. It's your greatest ally, just confused. It was designed to keep you alive, and it's doing that with total commitment. But in its effort to protect you, it becomes overprotective. It traps you inside a loop of fear, hypervigilance, and avoidance. It says, if I can just keep them from feeling that pain again, we'll be safe. So it builds walls, it numbs emotions, it hides memories, it avoids situations, and it repeats patterns that feel familiar because familiarity feels safer than the unknown. The problem is, what feels safe to your brain often isn't healthy for your growth. It keeps you stuck in the same emotional neighborhood, walking the same mental streets, expecting a different sunrise. That's how trauma tricks the brain, by disguising protection as peace. It whispers, don't go there, don't talk about it, don't feel that. And the more you listen, the smaller your life becomes. You might stop trusting people because one person betrayed you. You might stop pursuing opportunities because once you fail. You might stop loving fully because love once hurt. And every time you avoid the discomfort, your brain interprets it as success. It says, we escape danger. It rewards you with relief, that sweet temporary feeling that makes avoidance addictive. The more you avoid, the more your brain learns that safety comes from shrinking, from hiding, from running. And so the cycle continues. This is not because you're broken. It's because your brain was shaped by what it survived. It's because the circuits that were built for survival became overdeveloped, like muscles that have been clenched for too long. Trauma turns the brain into a prediction machine that sees danger in every shadow, even when the sun is out. It's not logical, it's emotional conditioning. The amygdala, the part of your brain that detects threats, doesn't stop to ask if a threat is real. It reacts. It sends signals through your body faster than your conscious mind can catch up. By the time you realize you're safe, your heart is already racing, your stomach tight, your breath shallow. You tell yourself, I'm overreacting, but your body doesn't believe you because your brain has trained it to stay ready, always ready, never relaxed. What makes this even more powerful is that the brain rewires itself based on repetition and emotion. The more often it relives fear, the stronger those neural pathways become. It's like carving grooves into the mind. Every time the same thought or reaction occurs, the groove gets deeper Eventually, your brain starts running the same program automatically. It becomes a habit of protection. But here's the hidden truth. The brain that was programmed by trauma can also be reprogrammed by safety, presence, and love. Neuroplasticity means that the same brain that learned fear can learn peace. The same brain that learned to survive can learn to trust again. But it doesn't happen by force. It happens by showing your brain again and again that the danger is over, that it no longer has to guard you from life. The first step is awareness, recognizing that your reactions are not personal flaws, but protective strategies. When you feel anxiety, when you shut down, when you overthink, that's not weakness. That's your brain saying, we're trying to keep you safe. The moment you realize this, you move from judgment to compassion. You begin to see your own patterns, not as enemies to fight, but as signals to understand. You start to listen to what your body is trying to tell you. Every tension, every fear, every emotional outburst is communication. It's your system saying, something in me still doesn't feel safe. When you meet that part of you with curiosity instead of criticism, you begin the process of rewiring. The healing doesn't come from erasing the past, it comes from teaching your brain that it's over. It comes from building new experiences that contradict the old programming. Every deep breath when you want to run, every conversation when you want to shut down, every act of vulnerability when you want to protect yourself, those are moments of rewiring. Those are moments when the brain learns it's okay now. Over time, those moments add up. The grooves of fear begin to fade, replaced by pathways of trust and calm. The same brain that once froze you in survival begins to open to life again. Trauma tricks the brain into believing that safety lies in control, but real safety lies in surrender, not the passive kind, but the courageous kind that says, I trust myself to handle whatever comes. The brain's instinct is to protect, but the soul's instinct is to grow. When you align the two, when you teach your brain that growth doesn't equal danger, you start to reclaim the power that trauma once took. You start to live again, not react. You start to create new memories that tell your nervous system a new story, one where you are no longer the one being hurt, but the one doing the healing. The brain's survival system confuses safety with familiarity, even when the familiar is pain. The mind is an extraordinary machine, a protector, a pattern seeker, built to detect danger and secure our survival. But what happens when the environment that shaped us taught our brain that pain, chaos, or rejection are normal? What happens when the familiar isn't peaceful but painful, yet our brain still calls it home? That's the tragedy of trauma's illusion. The brain doesn't crave happiness, it craves what it knows. It will cling to old pain because at least that pain is predictable. It will repeat the same patterns of heartbreak, self-sabotage, and limitation because the unfamiliar feels like risk and the familiar feels like control. It's not logic, it's conditioning. The same way a child grows up in a storm and learns to dance with thunder, the adult version of that child carries the rhythm of that storm wherever they go, calling it normal without realizing the sky can be clear. When we experience trauma, especially in formative years, the brain learns that the world operates by certain emotional rules. Maybe love comes with yelling. Maybe success brings judgment. Maybe safety is always temporary. These associations become the wiring of the subconscious. The brain absorbs not just what happened, but what it meant, and it builds internal maps based on that meaning. If love once hurt, your brain associates intimacy with danger. If being visible once got you punished, your brain associates attention with risk. So you begin to gravitate toward the same environments, relationships, and choices that mirror the pain you've already survived, not because you want to suffer, but because your nervous system whispers, this is familiar, we know how to handle this. The brain thinks it's keeping you safe by steering you toward what it recognizes, even if what it recognizes is the very thing that hurts you.